information that it was not him, the police would have known who all the women were, because Rosina was chased away from the police station. They know who she was. They knew she was the leader of the group at that stage and everything. So then, after this happened, I did not know what to do. I was so unhappy, and I decided, must I leave politics, or what must I do? I remember my father is not a very sophisticated man. I went to him and I explained to him that I was involved in some serious business. He was a very religious man, but a very strong nationalist his whole life. But he changed over the years. And I explained to him, and he said to me, whatever you do, don't run away. You must face the situation as it is and try to find a way to deal with it. Don't run away. That's never a solution. And as I went home, I thought, machtig, how do I find a solution in this wall of power? You know, it's huge. But in any case, while I was considering this, I got a call, and I tried to remember the name of this general. He had a very senior position in military intelligence. And he called me, and he said to me, can I come and see you? I said, yes, of course. And when I opened the door, he said to me, I don't want to talk to you in your house. I want to talk to you out in the garden. I said, why not? I said, I don't think it's safe to discuss the matter that I want to talk to you about.
So you knew right there.
There's the possibility that you could be eavesdropped.
Yeah.
And I thought, my goodness, it's not possible that the government was listening in on what I was doing, you know. But in any case, he was very careful. Maybe he was just making sure that there was no record of what we were talking about. So we went and we sat under a tree in my garden, and then he said to me, look, we know exactly what you were busy with. And it then explained to me exactly how the intelligence services are working, you know. We know what you are doing. I'm going to give you more information, and I'm going to ask you, forget about P.W. Botha and forget about those people. Use the information to enlighten National Party members. Use the information to change the party.
In a way, you have a power base. It's not upwards, it's downwards.
It's downwards. So he then focused my task to women in the National Party. He said to me, tell the women what the needs of the black women are. Tell the women what's happening to black women, and change their hearts. And I decided, well, then that was what I'm going to do. And then I called Marty. I said to him, Marty, we checkmate. We cannot change anything. In any case, Rosina was in jail at that stage, and everything was. And so what happened then is, shortly after that, I got invitations to speak at many women's gatherings of the National Party, but also of the old women's organizations that I was involved with. And so then I started to make this speech on the needs of women, black women in South Africa, and black families, and the living conditions and everything. And when I started this process, Magnus's wife, she was in one of the meetings where she listened to me. And let me say this, I think there was a lot of conflict between the police and the military people. The military people, Magnus, they wanted to move. They wanted to change because they said there was no political solution. There were no solution through violence or things. We must find a political solution. And they were very motivated to win the hearts and the minds of the people and to get to a political position. So she then contacted me and she said they want to make a tape of the speech, and they want then to distribute it in the party. So that's what Jans Rautenbach, one of the big filmmakers, he then put me down in an office in a studio, and he started to tape this. It was very difficult for me. It's easier to speak with people when you are in front of them, to make contact, eye contact, and to.
So you told the story then to the woman.
So then I told the story on a tape.
Mm-hmm.
And
now is that recording still available?
I've got. I sent one to the archives of the Voortrekker Monument, and Herman Gelomee has got the other one. But he phoned me the other day. He said he think he lost it. I was so unhappy because I kept the two, and but the one at the Voortrekker Monument should be accessible, and we could perhaps make a copy of that.
I would really, really appreciate that if that's possible. Because they should make a digital copy of that, because then it's easy to replicate and you don't lose it. Yeah.
In elk geval, that was after that. I started making this speech across the country, and I enjoyed it because I could see that it was making a difference. I could see that because we had to change the party. And not once in that time did I discuss this with my leader, which was Mr. de Klerk. And then he...
Now, at that time, just to clarify that, P.W. Botha was still
the president. He was the president, yes.
And de Klerk, what was his role?
He was Minister of National Education.
And why was he your leader then?
He was the leader of Transvaal. Look, you had
as the party leader, he was the party
leader
in
the province.
Of the province, he was your leader then.
Yes,
I'm with you.
Yes.
Okay.
He nominated me to Parliament.
Okay.
But I never knew him before that, So, but I got to know him very well, and I think he's a very honest man, and a very he's a very democratic sort of approach to things. He wants to hear everybody's view, and he wants to please. He's a dove. He wants to please every person, make them happy, and he doesn't like to fight,
So then the tape was distributed through the party, and
yes.
And what was the impact of that? And you also
It was huge because people were buying it,
What about the press? Did the press pick up on this?
Never. I have a huge book with wat met uitknipsels van koerante wat my mother made it.
Yeah.
And I also put it in the archives because I thought maybe it would get lost here, and it's also there,
Yeah.
And but it's not on over this. It's all jy weet my betrokkenheid oor al die goeders,
Sure.
But it was after that I decided, and of course, while I was busy with this discussions, F.W. de Klerk appointed me to a new position as ministerial representative, and I was just writing about it now before you come. I was very unhappy in that position because it actually limited me to own affairs, which was a very limited political field to act in.
Yeah.
And it also limited me only to the Northern Transvaal.
You were then cornered.
And Hennis then, before I left Parliament, he cornered me and he said to me, "Why do you allow your leader to sideline you?"
Yeah.
And I was so shocked when he said this, and I decided, I wanted to work from the house for a while, I still had a son in high school, and I must just leave it there. But while I was involved as ministerial representative, I got invitations from all over the country. But because I had this limitation to function only in this area, the party started to cross their eyes when I was accepting invitations across the country because I was so well known,
Yeah. Now tell me. You spoke with these women, you went back, you had all these troubles, you realized you couldn't go up, you had to go to your people. You then started to speak to women's organizations, you made this tape. Did you communicate back to those women at all?
I could not go back into the township. Martie was my connection, and then she explained to them. But of course, the women were then in jail. You know, they were in an aanhouding. And I could not, and Martie had access to them. She went and saw them, and she then started a feeding scheme in Atteridgeville. A lot of things was started by contact to alleviate certain things there.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about this is...
So you conveyed messages through Martie to them?
Yes, I kept contact with Martie. But as soon as I was appointed to ministerial representative, I was actually sidelined because I had nothing to communicate with her because my job was so limited then. If I explain to you in detail, but it's a long story.
Yeah.
But in any case, let me just explain this. I then started to fight to get a kiesafdeling op my eie. Constituency. To go back to Parliament. And I discussed this with F.W. de Klerk. I said to him, I want to go back to Parliament and I want to find out whether he will, as leader, he helped a lot of his... If he wants to put this person in a constituency, he had the powers to manage
to make it work, yeah.
He said to me, no, you must find your own constituency. But some of my friends, he helped them all to get constituencies. And then I decided, I was wondering whether he does not want me back there. So I decided, and I discussed this with my father, and he was reading the paper and he saw that the member for Parliament for Innisdal was transferred, was promoted to ambassador in the Netherlands. And he said to me, go and get that constituency. So I started, it was a very difficult negotiation process, but in the end I got that constituency. Yeah. And that constituency was won in 87 by 147 cents. So it was a marginal seat. So it was very hard work, but I used my experience, I used the involvement in many areas, and it's a very, very interesting story how we managed that process. And I eventually had the biggest majority on the basis that I had no support from the left, you know, the Progressive Party and so on. They voted me in with more than 1,500 votes.
So you expanded your majority.
A big expansion. Yeah. So I was back in Parliament. And then FW appointed me as Minister of Health. And